All right. So good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you're coming from. My name is Fanuel, and I'm so glad you're here with us today. I'm so excited to have Dr. Kiki Sanford here with us today to kick off our new year. Hello, everybody's waving. Yes. To kick off our new year of seminars, forums. We are going through our name changes ourselves as well. And so before we get started, I just wanted to say that we acknowledge that we live, work, and learn on the traditional lands of many tribes of indigenous peoples across North America, and we recognize the past, present, and future human impact our communities have on indigenous ways of life. As we gather virtually from around the country, we encourage you to learn more about the indigenous peoples who steward the land that you inhabit. Please consider donating your time or money to a charity or activist group supporting Indigenous-owned businesses and contacting your elected representatives. So in the chat there, Bree has posted some of those links that you can go to and learn more and participate in. So I have the honor of introducing Dr. Kiki Sanford to SAI. She is just phenomenal. That's just one word I can choose to describe her. A neurophysiologist by training, black belt in Taekwondo, black belt, okay? She's a science host of This Week in Science podcast, TWIS. You can look at on Twitter there as well. And I believe it's the longest running woman-owned science podcast. I read somewhere, potentially. Yes, Kiki's nodding. So she's a video and podcast producer, consultant, independent business owner. I mean, is there something you don't do? I don't know. All right, lots of things. And right now, she's also, of course, the co-founder of the of ASC, which we'll learn about today. And also, the role I believe that you have there is a VP of PR at ASC, formerly known as Science Talk. And it's going through a name change, but I'll leave you to tell us more about that. So today we're going to be having a conversation. Usually these forums are conversations with people that join us. And so Kiki, welcome to the floor. She'll talk for about 30 or so minutes. I think people have questions who are here live with us. Just raise your hand, drop a question. I think Kiki can take it on. But afterwards, again, we'll have a broader conversation on that. So with that, I'm going to shut up and open the floor. Kiki, welcome.
Thank you so much, Manuel. I just want to say thank you for inviting me to come speak. Bree, thank you for organizing and making it possible, getting all the dates together and making this happen. I have been appreciative and watching SAI for a very long time, very interested in all the work that's done through the Institute and all the people who are being influenced by all the work that you do. So it's just quite an honor to just get to come and talk with you. So thank you very much. Your introduction is pretty accurate. I do a lot of things. I think I'm very tired now. But we're not going to talk about fatigue or tiredness or, the physiology of why you should actually sleep for, memory and longevity and all sorts of quality of life things and mental health issues. No, we're not going to go talk about that. We are going to talk about the Association of Science Communicators and our conference, Science Talk. We're going to be discussing how we've gotten where we are today. And I want to share my journey so far in working with Science Talk from its beginnings when I became a part to it becoming the Association of Science Communicators and where we're going, where we're going to be hopefully in the future, and some challenges and lessons that I hope will be useful for other people who are looking at endeavoring to start a nonprofit community, endeavoring to start a conference, an ongoing event, any kind of thing like this that we are all working on. So if you have questions as we're going, feel free to ask in the chat or pop up on screen. I do want to make this kind of open-ended, but I guess, it's kind of easy to tell the story and then talk a bit about it at the end. So whatever works for everybody. I'm very, very easygoing. So as Fanuel said, I do a lot of things. My major emphasis for years has been science communication through podcasting and new media. New media isn't really new media anymore. It's kind of just media at this point in time. So This Week in Science has been my labor of love for many years. That's also opened the doors for me to be able to do a lot more in terms of science communication, science education, science writing. And so I've worked on video production. I have hosted television, commented, been a contributor on television shows, Science Channel, lots of video networks. And I'm still looking at doing more podcasting projects and other things. But around about 2017, I moved, or it was 2015 actually, that I moved to Portland, Oregon from the San Francisco Bay Area. And in moving from Portland to San Francisco to Portland, I lost contact with kind of my SciComm community, the people who I could maybe go have coffee with and connect with. And I was looking around and I'm like, is there anybody who does science communication in Portland? What's happening here? And so I started looking to see who was around, and I found an announcement for a conference that was Science Talk Northwest. And Science Talk Northwest was going to be held at the end of January in 2017. And here it was about mid 2016. And I sent an email to the founder, Allison Coffin, who works as a professor at Washington State University. And I said, hi, I've moved here and I would like to talk to you. And she said, hey, you want to be a keynote at our conference? And so I said, yes. And I got to keynote or be one of the keynotes at the very first science communication conference, Science Talk Northwest, which was held at the Portland OMSI, Oregon's Museum of Science and Industry. It was sold out. We had about 150 people. And at that point, I was just a speaker and I went, wow, look at this. There's all these people and they are finding community. They are learning more about best practices in science communication. They're learning from the experiences of others. And it's been a really long time since I've had this kind of experience connecting with other science communicators. I've been a member of the National Science Writers Association, really great organization that is also working in the science communication area, but has traditionally been focused on science writing. And I didn't feel like I quite fit completely with the Science Writers Association because I was doing podcasting and video production and all these other different things. And this last year, I came across a science communicator from England, Peter Brock, and he has written a couple of blog posts that struck me about what he calls the science communication baggy monster. And the science communication baggy monster is this idea that all the things that we do in science communication, they don't have a really strict discipline. There's a lot that we do, and it's really hard. We don't have key frameworks that hold it all together yet. We don't have common language that ties it all together yet. Science communication can be just about anything. And that's how I feel and how I have felt for a really long time. I am a science communication baggy monster. And I went, oh my gosh, there have got to be so many other baggy monsters out there too. And I saw that in Science Talk. And so I said, okay, I want to be a part of it. And in jumping into being a part of Science Talk Northwest, we started talking about how a few people were coming from other parts of the country. And so the strategy started to be, let's not just focus on the Pacific Northwest, we can be a national organization. And so Science Talk Northwest became Science Talk, just Science Talk. And it was a conference. And then we were like, okay, great, we're doing this conference annually, and we're going to bring science communicators together from all over the country, and we moved to a bigger conference center here in Portland, Oregon. We've always stayed focused in Portland so far. The conference center was a little bit big for where we were at the time, but again, it was like this really great energy bringing people together. And I don't know if anybody ever went to the Science Online conferences back in the kind of early mid 2000s, but the conference was really hitting this feeling that I used to get from the community that I found at the Science Online conferences, which was really people who weren't just science writers, but had all sorts of other ways of communicating science coming together. And the energies, it's just really started hitting. And I started really thinking that this needed to be even more than just a conference. And so strategically as an organization, we started working together to start offering more things. But everybody just continued to think of us as Science Talk, the conference. So we did this great conference for a couple of years. The second year, third year in person, second year as Science Talk, we ended up at the Tiffany Center, which is where we've been in person ever since. Great conference, great group of people, great lineup. Again, wonderful stuff. But then the pandemic happened. And in the onset of the pandemic, we realized that we could not be in person in March of 2020. And the conference was going to be canceled. And that really was hard to consider, that we were just going to go back to everybody and say, sorry, no conference, no speakers. You don't get to connect with your community. We've got nothing for you this year. And so I realized that I had the knowledge from working in years of online streaming, podcasting, and video production, which really is kind of like This Week in Science. I've been doing like a weekly online live streaming event for years and years. And I said, we can do this. I know how to do this. We can figure this out. And with about 3.5 weeks to spare, we polled our community. We asked for their input on how we should move forward. We decided on a platform, a new platform, actually. It was called Crowdcast, I think is the name of it. We don't use that platform anymore, but it was a platform that we chose that worked well that year. And we were able to bring people together online when people were quarantining, when people were afraid. We were one of the very first conferences at the onset of the pandemic to flip to virtual and be able to bring everyone together. And I am just so proud of our team for being able to do that, because I think it really helped our community as a whole, being able to begin the pandemic with that kind of connection. So we moved from this just virtual 2020, 2021, we have optimism and we're like, maybe we could go back to the Tiffany Center. No, pandemic, still going. So yet again, we did a virtual conference. 2022, optimism again. We've got vaccines, we've got masks, we've got all these things. And can we come back together? Yes. We moved back to the Tiffany Center, but we knew that we couldn't give up on the virtual connection that we had started engaging on over the last couple of years. And so we had the online platform that we started using, which is called Whova. We still use it. It was used for our second virtual conference. We used it last year for our hybrid conference, and we're using it once again for 2023. So Whova is a great platform. There are lots of other platforms like it that offer really great services for online, in-person, or hybrid events. And I'm happy to talk about the pros and cons of a lot of these different services. But it was amazing to bring people back together again. Downside, a lot less people were really able to come in person, but those who did, we really were able to connect. It was a lot of great conversations. We saw that people wanted to network a lot more than they wanted to sit in the auditorium and watch some of our sessions. We learned a lot of lessons last year from the hybrid model about live streaming presentations and when to have live presentations, when to have online presentations. And we can talk a bit more about those lessons if you have questions about that in a few minutes. But to move on from this hybrid form that we had at the end of the conference last year, we announced that Science Talk was going to be rebranding as the Association of Science Communicators. And you might ask, why did we decide to do that? Why do we need to be rebranded from Science Talk into this association? Well, we had a branding problem. So when we tried to tell people who we were, people were like, oh yeah, you're that conference, or I think there's a podcast called Science Talk out there. Is that you? Or oh, you teach scientists how to communicate science. And the reality was, yeah, we did a conference, but that's not all we were. We were starting to have an online community year round. We were starting to create and promote courses that people could take in science writing, in podcasting, in video production, in freelancing. We were starting to make a lot more resources available to our community and build the community of practice that we really, really are hoping for. That is not just scientists communicating science. It's not just science writers. It is the community of professionals who communicate science, professional science communicators. And we needed to create a member organization that would allow people to take advantage of this growing profession, to put it on their CV, to be part of a professional organization, and to take advantage of a lot of benefits that a professional member organization can offer. And so now, the last year, 2022, we've been rebranding. We've got a new website. We have changed a lot of our social media. And you might be asking, okay, what happened to Science Talk? Well, Science Talk is a great conference. So Science Talk is still our conference. ASC is the professional organization. The Association of Science Communicators is here for the professional science communication community, and we produce the Science Talk conference every year. And so this is the way it's going to work moving forward. And this will hopefully allow us also internally a little bit better delineation of roles and the ability to more efficiently and effectively produce the content and the events that we want to be producing. So where are we now? It is the beginning of 2023, and Science Talk 23 is coming. So we have a new hybrid conference. It's going to start in March. We'll start with a few online happy hours, and I like having March Mondays of science communication, just to kind of bring the community together and get everybody warmed up on using the platforms that we'll be using for the actual conference. A lot of people like to use it as an opportunity to ask questions about poster presentations or their talks that they're going to be giving. Other people like to come together and could just connect with each other and get to know each other prior to the conference. So you can go to sciencecom.org that's sciencecom with 2 M's, which will forward you to our Association of Science Communicators.org webpage, which is a big mouthful. But anyway, beginning, I think it's March 29th, which is a Wednesday, virtual presentations, short talks, workshops, panel discussions will happen prior to the actual in-person conference. The in-person conference is from the evening of April 5th. The conference days are the 6th and 7th of April, and those will have some strictly in-person aspects to them that will not be live streamed to the virtual attendees, but the majority of the sessions will be live streamed so that virtual attendees can access them. Everybody will be able to communicate, whether they're in the in-person audience or at home sitting on their couch, using Whova to be able to chat and ask questions of the speakers. And we've found that this works fairly well to bring everyone together and to give a sense of community, whether or not people are attending virtually or in person. So this is what we're doing now. We're getting ready for the conference. We have our conference agenda. Bree is working on making the agenda look amazing and getting all the right speakers in the right order. And then we'll be working on the technical aspects of actually making it happen so that we've got the live streaming technical logistics underway. So from all this and how I've kind of been involved in making this work through the years, I feel like I've been working on it for a little bit now. 2017 to 23, we're coming up on 6 years, 7 years almost, and we have grown quite a lot. The organization has grown, our reputation has grown. We keep working at building our volunteer base so that we can make things happen. But the challenges of what we do for the conference, for the organization as a whole, is that we're still completely volunteer run. And this comes with a whole host of its own issues. Volunteers have limited time, limited energy, and also limited interest. So you have to find ways to engage people in particular projects and get people involved for the time that they're available and make it valuable to them. This is a big challenge. We have visions. Allie and I are constantly going back and forth on like, we could do this. We could do this thing. We'll take over the world with science community. Yeah. Let's let reality come in. How much time do we have in a day? How many people do we actually have ready to help us in what we're doing? And then how much money do we have? There are big considerations when it comes to the buckets of money that are available for organizations like ours. Science communication is an underfunded endeavor, generally. Science communication is being looked at. There are foundations, there are organizations that are trying to figure out ways to make it more sustainable, because it's definitely to the benefit of society if science is communicated effectively and engagingly. And I don't have to tell you about all these things, but there are only a limited number of buckets of money. So how do you get access to the funders? How do you find sponsors who are interested in the thing that you're trying to do? And so this has also been a part of the rebranding from Science Talk to the Association of Science Communicators. We've gone from the fun, funky little startup conference to now growing an organization that is not just national, but international, with the goal of supporting society through a network of professionals who are doing this work. And so this has a better ring to it for people who are philanthropists, people who are interested in the money and funding side of things. And then we have, the question of how much do you charge for events? What do you charge for an in-person event versus a virtual event? How many people do we think we're going to come? How many people can we get to take a course? How can we fund this organization in an ongoing, sustainable manner? It's a huge challenge. And it's one of the big questions that I know a lot of nonprofits come up against. And I'm sure, Fanuel, you have your own challenges and your own solutions in this department as well. In terms of the conference itself, the challenges there have become increasingly complex. It went from being a conference that took place in a single room with just a series of speakers that were lined up for a day, and moved now to a hybrid conference in which we have virtual presenters, we have live in-person presenters, we have virtual audience, we have live in-person audience. In a sense, it creates not just 2 conferences, but 3, because you've got the virtual conference, you've got the live conference, and you've got the conference as a whole. And so the complexity of managing all the moving parts that are involved in a hybrid conference cannot be understated. And I mentioned also the challenge of communicating who we are. So now, hopefully, we're going to be communicating who we are more solidly so that people understand who we're trying to help. We want to be also a community of science communicators who are helping science communicators, right? So the organizers of Science Talk now ask, we're all science communicators. We are science communicators. This is a passion of ours. And we want to help the community, and we want to help the community grow by developing that passion and also developing the profession so that there's a pathway at some point, and perhaps not everybody will be a baggy monster in the future. I don't know, but maybe everybody wants to be a baggy monster. Join me in the baggy monster club. In the lessons side of things, we have a lot of lessons that we've learned for sure over the last several years, at least that I've learned. And my take homes from this are, in the volunteers that are coming to the organization, find your angels, find the people who have the same passion as you, find the people who have the skills, find the people who have the connections, who want to be there and put the time aside to do the work. It's going to be hard to do, and you might not be able to keep your angels for ever. Everybody has things that they want to do in their lives, and time is allocated accordingly. But when you've got the angels with you, take advantage of them, know who they are, and make sure that you give them the recognition that they deserve. Like, Bree, you're amazing. Know your audience. And this is a huge part of going from Science Talk into becoming the Association of Science Communicators. I mean, seriously, we're communicators, we're science communicators. Know your audience is one of the first lessons that you learn. It's like, I don't know, high school level science communication class, not even introductory college level. Know your audience. And here we were having difficulty finding our audience and communicating. It's always good to be able to figure out who they are. And how do you do that? You listen to your community. When your community tells you that they want something, find a way to make that happen. If your community is not happy with something, find a way to work with them so that we can solve problems. This again moves into being flexible. So if you are just rigid and you don't change and you just say, this is my organization and this is the way it's going to be, who wants to be a part of that? You're telling people what they're going to be doing, how they're going to be a part of the organization. No, you have to give people a chance to help grow the organization as well. The whole organization is a life form of its own. And so you have to be flexible enough. I mean, there are certain states that allow life to thrive or die off, right? And so you need to figure out how to have the right level of flexibility to grow your community, to grow your organization, your event, whatever it is, and have it succeed. Know you're going to make mistakes. I made so many mistakes. Our organization has made so many mistakes. This is just a fact of life. But if you understand that and then learn from them, it can allow you to iterate and become even stronger, and to give your community more of what they want, to help the community become more of what it wants to be. Be transparent. This is about the mistakes. You make a mistake, own up to it. Talk about the troubles you're having. Ask for help. This is a huge issue. I mean, even within leadership roles, if you can learn to ask for help to do things that you don't know how to do, that you don't want to do, that you think other people would be better suited to, asking for help is the best way also to get people to become more engaged in the organization, the event, whatever it is that you're trying to do. When people start to help, it creates a reciprocity feedback cycle, and it helps everybody. The last couple here go back to the conference. Hybrid is not just complex, it's expensive. So a lot of people think, oh yeah, I'll just do all my conferences online and it's going to be super easy and, no problem. Well, if you have all volunteer staff, nobody needs to get paid. You don't have to pay for any AV. You don't give anybody any food. No. Even moving online to do a conference online, there needs to be organization. There needs to be cohesion. You need to have a platform to bring everybody together. You need to pay for things in the same way that you need to pay for things in the real world for in-person stuff. And so hybrid is kind of doubly that, because you have to pay for the local facility, the places that people are going to be, the stuff that's in person, and you have to pay for all the stuff online. So the cost goes up, sometimes exponentially. And so you have to be really, really aware of that. And then finally, I think the big lesson is you can't please everyone. When you try to please everybody, you're going to end up letting a lot more people down than if you, again, went back to knowing your audience, listening to your community, being flexible, and just understanding there will be some mistakes, and not everybody is going to just completely get what you do. Not everybody is going to love the way that you're doing it, but you have to try. So I don't know, as Nike says, just do it, or, don't give up, ask for help. And we can make these things happen. We can make magic happen if we work together. And that is a big aspect of what we're trying to do. We want to help the entire science communication community rise up. We want to bring professionals together across the board, but we also don't want to reinvent the wheel. If other people are doing things, why do we need to do them? But we can come together in partnership and allow more stuff to be accessible to more people, so that we can all build the profession of science communication together. Give it a pipeline. I don't know. We need more baggy monsters though. But anyway, make sure that you register for Science Talk 23, which is going to be end of March, early April. And if you're interested, also a big project that we are currently working on is we have written an open letter that we're looking for signatures on. And I can, when I'm closing my window here from the slideshow, I can share the link. But the open letter is basically calling for 2023 to be a year of opening science communication for open science. I'd love you to read the letter, and if you agree with the things that we say, please become a signee of the letter. We think that it is important to make a stand for not siloing science communication within particular disciplines, like only scientists can be science communicators, which we all know. No, a lot more people can communicate science than just scientists. I think that's it. I've talked all myself out, and I love Corey, Fanuel, Jenny, all the people who have mentioned here. Some of you have been to Science Talk, some of you have not. And thank you for joining us in previous years. I hope that you will return again. If you have any questions about the Association of Science Communicators, let me know. I am here to share and here to answer questions.
Awesome. Wow.
How'd I do? Just vomit it? Did I vomit it out in 30 minutes?
No. You've opened up the Pandora's box. Now we can really get in there and ask all sorts of questions. And I forgot to mention in the introduction that this is how I met Kiki. Was I went to Science Talk last year in the hybrid format, and I managed to find time to chat with you, and I just got so inspired, of course, and so bringing you here again is like, yay. And I will be returning, as I told everybody earlier, so this is super exciting. So I have one quick question, then the floor is open for everybody. I'm just curious, how are you thinking about impact, right? Like how are you defining it for the organization? Now I'm thinking about ASC overall, because ASC now, as I understand it, Science Talk is being produced by ASC, right?
Yeah.
But you do many other things as well, right, throughout the year for your members. So how do you think about impact?
Yeah, there's the KPI kind of known performance indicator or key performance indicator aspects of impact, right? We can look at how many people become members. We can look at how many people come to the conference. We can look at, how much money did we make? Or, how many people took courses over the course of a year? And so there are those very concrete performance indicators that we can look at. And so, if we see growth, we'd like, we are trying to set thresholds and points that will indicate that we're growing at the rate that we want to grow and all that. But then there's like more fuzzy kind of impact that is the real issue. What impact are professional science communicators having in the real world? How are we coming together to learn new practices and then figure out how to take what's being researched and in the literature, or what people are talking about, and put it into practice and share it? And is that actually having further impacts? And so then it comes into the fuzzy question of, can we start to do surveys that look at keywords, at hashtags, at Google search terms, as do they increase or decrease over certain periods as different groups are working on different projects? There are lots of ways to start looking at that, but ideally, what we're hoping is that it'll be a feedback loop into the community, and that we will start to see a greater number of collaborations between science of science communication researchers and practitioners, that we will actually start to see reports of those collaborations come back to the conference. And so that we'll actually start to see, as years move forward, kind of, the benefits within the community because of the people that meet each other and are able to move forward, collaborating and working on projects, and then reporting on them back to everybody. And, fingers crossed, that's, hopefully it'll grow in that manner.
That's awesome. And I will add that Corey, for example, that was a hard connect at the conference.
Awesome.
So,
Perfect.
Jenny, it looks like you have a question. Or I wasn't sure. Jenny?
Where am I? Like, Jenny?
Oh,
Jenny's
no.
just like, yes.
She's like, no, I don't have a question. Okay. I was like, who was enabled their video? I'm like, ooh, good question. Go ahead, Jenny.
No, I don't have a question. I'm just enjoying the presence of other people.
Oh, so say we all. Yeah.
I'll refrain from questions, though. If anybody else wants to drop the question, please go ahead, and I will check the live streamer, see if there's a question there. So don't be shy. Yeah.
I mean, another aspect of impact there is the work of the science community. Is that science communication evaluation community? And I think that would be incredible to get more input from the evaluators who are out there to actually come into the science communication community to help start putting together better frameworks for measuring impact. Because we do these things and we kind of make up goals for outcomes. We have strategies and we say, oh, okay, I want to do this project and hopefully I can measure these things and there'll be outcomes. And then there's the mushy, someday the world is better. Evaluators can really help us improve on all of this. And so, that's my dream, is to be able to get more of the science of science communication community bringing their work, more of the evaluators helping to figure out how to evaluate projects, and then the communication practitioners all working together. No more mushy, fewer baggy monsters, lots of benefit.
And I think so the AZL grants, for example, right? The NSF's AZL, they have done a really good job at trying to get at that, right? Providing a framework for evaluation and thinking through, okay, how do we figure out impact for different set of initiatives? And I love what you said at the beginning, that these are not just science, like science communicators come in many different just approaches, right? They're scientists, they're non-scientists. They're writing, they're multimedia, right? It's all the whole thing. And we still haven't got to grasp about that actually, right? Like who are these people? What are they doing? So I think it's really, really interesting to think about that. But AZL, the AZL is one one thing I can point at to say that there is some concerted effort there in terms of providing that researchers and practitioners bring them together.
Yeah, I mean, the National Academy of Sciences, the NSF, ASOL, like there are lots of very important organizations who have all come to pretty much the same not solution, but the same conclusion that yes, we need to bring all of these people together, that there's a disconnect. And one of the interesting conversations that I've had with people trying to get the Science of Science communicators into more of the science communication conferences is that very often there is no impetus for the researchers to go to a science communication conference, because that is not sharing with their academic community. And so if they are researchers at an institution and they have a certain amount of funding to go to a certain number of conferences and present their work, they're presenting at their academic disciplinary conferences. They are publishing in their academic journals. They're not necessarily getting any initiative from anyone unless they have it all on their own, which some researchers definitely do. But there's a disconnect because there's no reason professionally from the academic track to connect to the practitioners in the real world.
That is fascinating to me, because isn't the
right?
whole point of their work to connect with the practitioners? Like, I've always wondered why. Like, I've been involved with NASW forever, and I've never ever once seen an evaluator or someone talk about. I mean, I don't know if half the members of NASW have even heard of evaluation of projects. It's such a silo, and you're so spot on here with bringing that community of the researchers and the practitioners together. It's strange that we're not better connected.
I think it's very strange, especially because maybe a lot of practitioners at one point are like, I like to do this, I want to do research, and then they end up in the research track, and then they wind up siloed.
Right.
Yeah, but there are definitely those researchers who do reach out, who are getting the word out, who are working very hard. Dietram Schauffele, Dominique Brossard, Bruce, and I'm blanking on names, but yeah, there's all sorts of people who really are working, and hopefully younger generations of these researchers will do better at making the connections. And I love that your Christmas tree is still up and lit.
Oh, one year we had it up till Valentine's Day. It was like I was going to AAAS and the tree was still up. It was really embarrassing.
Our tree is still up as well. So.
Mine too. Yeah.
But yeah, these connections, I think, it's hard, right, to make these connections. I think some of the content we produce sometimes is erudite, and it's produced, research paper, and just lives in there, right? No one ever dissects it and makes it more accessible.
Yeah.
Right. So for the practitioner to say, oh, okay, so this is the newest knowledge. How can I then apply this to my work, right?
Yeah.
As a podcast or whatever. So I think there's a lot of room there, right, for more to be done. Right.
There's definitely room for more to be done. SciComm Bytes is a great blog that is working toward doing that out of the Science Trainers Network, Science Communication Trainers Network. And then, yeah, there are definitely some podcasts that are working to do it as well. But yeah, it's still
I also
piecemeal.
Yeah, and I've been really curious too, because I attended AAAS in 2020 because they came to Seattle, and there was a whole little work group where a bunch of people were getting together and wrote a white paper on this, like exact. And I was always really kind of curious because I remembered it recently, and I was like, that's coming out of AAAS. Like, what happened to that?
Yeah.
So I think even the larger organizations that have even broader reach and focus are still kind of prone to that siloing, or they might do work on something and then not quite disseminate it to, broader audiences.
Yeah, right. And then, yeah, and the other aspect of this is the communication side, right? How do we get out of the silos? How do you, I mean, there's the silo of the just for science communicators. How do you start talking to people outside the science enthusiast bubble, right? How do you reach the many other audiences out there, right? How do we as professional science communicators find all the professional science communicators when there are people out there doing science communication who probably don't consider themselves science communicators?
Yeah.
Right.
How do we pull those people in?
And I think that's the point of definitions, but I will get back to that for a second. Jenny, sounds like you had a thought. Am I right this time?
Yeah. I mean, along those lines of like just breaking out of our bubble of science enthusiast types of people, I'm curious if you have within your ask, I love that that's the acronym, ask, K-12 teachers in there?
We have had some K-12 teachers, but not enough for sure. I would love to get more integration with science teachers with,
yeah. I mean, a science teacher is a science communicator. And
yes,
like you said,
yes.
I bet none of them would think of themselves as a communicator because they're not publishing or podcasting, but you can't teach if you can't communicate. So
exactly. Yeah.
I've always thought like we as communicators probably could learn a lot from teachers and how they break things down or get things across. And I've often felt like somewhat of a, I don't know, radical in that notion, but
no, the pedagogy that teachers use to be able to, you know, explain really complex ideas and get students to go, oh yeah, I totally get it. I'm going to get an A on that test, right? You know, and not just forget it tomorrow. That's a skill. And there's a lot to be learned from the science education community for science communication in general. Yeah. And I love your science storytellers, if that's still going.
Thank you. It's having life breathed back into it. It was pretty much put in a little box for 2 years after
pandemic.
And now with coming into the SAI community, I'm bringing it back into the world. I'm going to get it out there. Yeah.
Good.
And that's the hard part, right? I think that's what I love about ASC is that you bring people together. And I think last time, just as you know, I just got so inspired. As one of those are my words. Like I got so inspired from being there, meeting with people, that I went back and they just infused life back into everything else that I was doing. If that, right? Talk about impact. If at the baseline, that's it, you have a massive win, right? That I connected with someone and I left inspired.
And and that is really like if we're able to do that for, you know, hopefully most of our attendees, but you know, even just a handful, you and other people leave the conference and are inspired to go out and do your work. That, you know, especially over the last few years when we haven't been feeling respected, we haven't been feeling like they're like people want us to talk about science. It's like, you know, oh no, you're just going to tell me to wear a mask and get a vaccine, and so suddenly everything's really just harder, and we're tired, and we're not inspired. We haven't been around our people, even though we've got these Zoom calls and these webinars and other things. We're not getting the same level of connectivity that we need as a social species to really like get those neurotransmitters going that make you want to do more, right? Like, I don't know, I can do a Zoom call from my bed if I feel like it. And I don't know, then I'm not as inspired to do as many things. Yeah,
that is right. That's right. So you mentioned funding, right? Remember that dreaded word we all know. It's
yeah.
And you know, you're completely volunteer run, and I think that's really impressive that you've been able to do that, right? So as we know, science communication severely underfunded, as you said. So what's your message to funders? Like, what do we? How can we solve this?
Yeah, I mean, that's a huge question. I think, there are foundations, the funder foundations that are out there. They know what their interests are. But the message is that by opening science up to society at large, having more people understand the scientific method, having more people understand a variety of scientific findings, we're going to have a healthier, more inspired, more creative future moving forward. And so if organizations are worried about the economy, this is one way to invest in the future of a thriving economy, by getting more and more people to be aware of science and how it works and how it plays crucial roles in public health, in technology, in so many more aspects of our lives, that they are essentially going to be funding the future by funding science communication.
Sold.
So this is what I need to write a letter to the funders now.
If
Okay,
anybody's
we have a
watching,
recording, so
Okay,
Yeah.
good. Take that
right.
clip and we'll send it out. Say,
Yeah.
you.
Because the funding is it's hard, and I think what you said is
Yeah.
it is investable, right? It's investable,
It's
and the
investable,
returns, the returns can be measured different ways. The ROIs, right?
Yeah.
And they may be short term, long term. And the point about definitions I mentioned earlier is that I think there are, the discipline, from my view, I see it as civic science. And then within the discipline, there are these areas. Science communication is one, informal STEM learning is another, public engagement with science is another one, and science policy, because science policy targets a very specific audience, right? The folk over at Congress and so forth, right?
Yeah.
But we're all trying to do the same thing. We use different tools, right? But we're trying to aim at this central goal of increasing accessibility in science and so forth. So we do have an issue with definition.
Definitions. I mean, because I would argue that under civic science, that science communication actually spans over the STEM engagement, the STEM education, and the STEM science policy.
Yep.
Science communication is a part of all of it. And so that's how I would set the framework.
And it's actually even it's like porous, right?
Yeah.
If you were to draw a Venn diagram, but anyway, that's a Venn diagram of some kind. There will not be solid lines, there'll be dotted lines, because everything is fusing into there's some specific subset that are very specialized. One could say, well, where is citizen science, right?
Yes.
The thing love about citizen science is a two-way street, right? The citizen is involved in the science, and the scientist is talking to the citizen. Just beautiful, right?
It's an amazing example of communication.
Exactly. So I think we are all united, right? There's a unity that is there.
Maybe we need to think of it, in terms of like horizontal gene transfer, right? It's like or transposons, right? Jumping genes. We've got the ability of these these different tools in various toolkits to be applicable in different ways. And sometimes, the policy maker is going to be talking to the artist, and sometimes the science writer is going to be talking to the politician or to the scientist or whatever. But the bits and pieces, the Lego bricks, they'll still all fit together.
Yeah, I agree. Before I ask my last question, any others want to jump in here?
Yeah, I was seeing Melanie in the chat room talking about science communication kind of under learning sciences. And I agree it is partially, but in the fact that it's not always about learning is, I think, part of it. Depends on the goal, it depends on the audience, but part of it falls under learning sciences for sure, I would guess. And for Corey, yes, a long time back, that was a Battlestar Galactica reference, and you caught it. +1 for you.
+1 indeed. So there are other conferences, right? Kiki, so customer, for example, the one in New York, you may know about, they focus on the ensembling, like performance, and their main thing is actually collaborations, right?
Nice.
Especially using performance as a vehicle there. Are there others, or is ASC really at the forefront? Kind of, because I see you guys expanding and growing really quickly now with the pandemic slightly.
Yeah. So we are the only organization that is specifically focused on the professional science communication community. There are many other organizations that do include science communication under their conference offerings, and or may have different foci. So the informal SciComm group, not informal, no, the inclusive. Thank you. Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, inclusive SciComm, they are focused on inclusivity and diversity and those aspects specific to reaching groups that have not been reached before or have been reached poorly. And then there is a science communication group in Nebraska. So University of Nebraska has their, I think is it semi-annual? It's every 2 years. Anyway,
biannual? I don't know.
Biannual, yes. Every 2 years they have a science communication conference, but it is kind of focused at the collegiate level. So, but it is Bree, you went to that conference this last year and thought it was really great. So, there are a number of conferences. There's also PCST, which is an international communication of science group. And PCST has also a conference every 2 years, and they have conferences all over the world. So like Ireland, Africa, Australia, and one of these years I'm going to go because I think they are a fantastic group. And that, I think, is just a wonderful group because they're really bringing together examples of science communication that are happening in different localities around the world. So why does one program work in one location but not in another, are some of these really interesting comparisons that can be made because of the work that they're doing. AAAS, always a wonderful conference that includes a SciComm track. The Science Festival Alliance has an incredible conference. Who else? I mean, I think there's a growing
NASW, right?
There's
NASW.
Yeah,
but and
he said before about the baggy monsters. I mean, I've been in NASW forever, but I'm definitely a baggy monster in that conference. Like I'm not a journalist, I'm not a PIO, I'm not a freelancer. I'm at this intersection of journalism and science education and engagement that makes me a communicator, but there's not very many other people doing the kind of work that I do within NASW, which, it makes sense given the history of that organization with, roots in journalism, but it's also, it's a great conference. We were in person this year and it was so nice to see people again.
One of these days, I'm going to get back to NASW. It's like, I want to go to all the conferences. And it's really hard. Bree, you were going to say, but one thing Ask is trying to do in the future is hopefully co-conference with ARIS, with Aztec, with the Science Trainers Network. Like if we can get just a massive conference of all of the groups and see what happens at some point, it would be amazing. So we are talking with Susan Reno and Chris over at Aztec, and we're talking with people, and hopefully we can make that happen. So might not be in Portland, it'll probably be some other big city, but I'm all for it. I want
you go by vote, like a super conference.
A super conference.
Yes.
Science communication super conference.
I love it. Break down all the walls.
And maybe it happens every a couple of years, so you can still do your individual ones, but then there's a super conference that takes place every 4 years or something. Right? It's like kind of like the football, soccer, thing.
Exactly.
The World Cup, yes, the World Cup of science communication. Wow.
No, I
Guys,
like
we're getting out of hand.
Corey's suggestion, SciComm Avengers. There we go.
Man.
Like I'm
I'm in.
Avengers, yes. And so that was my last, actually, you answered my question before even asking it, the future of ASC, where it's going. But do you foresee eventually having professional staff running ASC?
Yeah, that is the hope. So we are currently trying to develop the courses that we offer, have a membership, dues paying membership, and so slowly build up the revenue stream. We're also applying for grants, and ideally we'll first be able to hire a full-time executive director, so that we at least have one full-time paid staff member who can organize and take care of a lot of the day-to-day business that needs to happen and apply to grants and all that kind of stuff. But yes, the goal is to grow, to have a paid staff eventually, one step at a time, and all the time understanding that it's the community for the community. And so that's the whole key.
That's what we have with NASW is one paid executive director and a half-time assistant director, and
Yeah, and it works. They do a great
yeah,
job.
and the rest is all volunteer.
Tinsley's been doing it amazingly for years.
So for funders watching this, you need to get in touch with Dr. Sanford. Okay, just go to the website right now. Just go there, click the link. If you're watching this in the future, you should still do that. If you're interested in attending, and this before March, before, because it's April 6th to 7th, you should sign up so you
Yes.
can go to the sessions. If you're watching this in the summer of 23, well, yeah, get ready for 24. Okay. Speaking
yeah.
of the future. And for those who want to collaborate with Dr. Sanford as well, super conference, you name it, or you want to do a workshop at the conference, again, just get in touch. Go to the website, get in touch. Phenomenal work, I think, will be coming out of there. So I'm excited to watch and join the ride. So with that, everybody, thank you so much for joining us. I know you're so busy, but I really appreciate you coming today. Bree, thank you for making this happen. Yay.
Oh, it was wonderful. Just thank you so much. I just really am glad to see you again and get the chance to speak with you and speak with the other people who might be coming to your platform in the future through this opportunity. And Bree, you are just a superwoman. I want you to know that. And I just really appreciate all you do. So, and Fenwell, I am again also watching what you're doing and appreciating it from afar. So yes. More partnerships, collaboration. Let's all grow together.
Let's grow together. Let's grow together. And with that, let's grow together. Let's have a great remainder of the week, everybody, and join us next time. We have these every month, and so bringing different people, different topics. So thank you so much, everybody. Have a good one.